Hey, YouTube, it's your boy, the author, right back at that ass. Making another video here. I made a previous video about white supremacy, and I want to add to that too. Now, people might say, well, that's crazy. They're black managers, they're black presidents of banks. We have a black president. So that means white supremacy can't exist. Well, you got to look at the whole thing too. I mean, okay, in terms of white supremacy, we have a black president, one compared to how many others who were white. We have about 40 something presidents. Okay, only one that was black. Okay, so, and you could say, well, yeah, there are other races who didn't get that chance at all, Chinese or whatever. And that's true. But at the same time, you have to look at, blacks being brought here, pretty much building up this country. Some would say this country was actually our land, that we had control over it, and there was just a hostile takeover, and we were overthrown and put into slavery. But either way you want to look at it, if you say, okay, we're brought on ships, and we had to be slaves, we still helped build this country, and we're owed a lot more than that. I mean, Japanese people had reparations. I mean, Israel, their reparations. Everybody thinks it's okay for everybody else to get reparations instead of us. And by no means is a black president reparations, especially not with the one we have now. But, I'm just making a comparison. I'm just talking in terms of 1 versus 42. Yeah, you will have some black management. But for the most part, it's not going to be a type of thing where it's a proper representation of our race. We should have a lot more black managers in the industry. We should have a lot more black supervisors. We should have a lot more black quarterbacks in the NFL. We should have a lot more black coaches in the NBA. So they'll give you about a few. They'll give you 1 or 2, but you're not going to get a decent representation. And out of those who are in those positions, best believe that they follow suit. They do exactly what they're told. They don't bring any bright ideas to the table unless they're approved, meaning they go right along with white supremacy, the ideology. If they're told to cut black players first, or if they're told that, we need this group of people cut versus this group of people, that black manager or that black bank president or that black NBA owner, he's going to follow suit. That's why those few blacks who are in management positions, they're there and they're going to stay there. If not, they're replaced quickly. The average black supervisor versus the average white supervisor. I mean, the black supervisor, he doesn't have too many mistakes to make before he's out of there. I've been a black supervisor. The first mistake, I was gone. You don't get many mistakes. And even I had the white supervisor tell me, well, I've done the same thing. And he said, I'm still here. So then some whites will realize that too. They'll tell you the truth on the low, but the blacks being a supervisor and management position, a lot of these guys, if they do make a black manager or supervisor, he had a higher position somewhere else, and he's getting bumped down to a manager. He was a damn near CEO somewhere else, but he was bumped down to a manager. Now with this business, he's taking on being a manager. That happens a lot on business. This is not the type of thing where whites where they're going up the ladder. And you see a lot of blacks who are in a supervisor position. He was pretty much a manager somewhere else. He's a supervisor now, but he was pushed down from his previous position. And if he is a black manager, believe he has to show a lot of leadership skills, twice as much, maybe 4 or 5 times as much versus his white counterpart. He has to really, really have those leadership skills. He can't lack it all. They're not going to say he can grow into it. It's not going to be that type of thing. They want to already see that present in him before they give him the job. It's not like white counterparts, but they'll put them there. They might not be leadership material, but they try to mold them into a leader, not the same. Black shit gotta happen. So that's why it's so few of us in management positions. We're not really molded to be managers because we don't have businesses in our communities which can help mold blacks into professionals, into leadership positions. We don't really have that format. Most inner cities, the only homegrown, and that's not even homegrown, the only businesses we have left is the drug gang. That's why you see so many of these kids out here hustling. I'm not saying that they should. Some people say, well, they should just get a job. Well, a lot of whites aren't going to hire them. To tell you the truth. Excuse me. Yeah, they're not going to be hired. A lot of the workforce might take 5 to 8% of us. And even CNN will tell you a white man with a felony has twice as much. He's a white man with a felony has a better chance of getting a job than a black man without one. And I've had jobs where I worked, I was one of the only blacks on the team, but I was standing right next to my white counterpart who I just got out of jail. So it's that type of thing. But I wanted to also address in this video, I saw in this video, I think it was Conspiracy Dude or something like that, but a lot of videos talk about how blacks are in a bad position and how can we compete with whites. They have these big businesses like Google and they're making $1,000 per second, and the only few businesses that we as blacks have is the hair industry, and they're being hostily taken over by those who are in power. How can we compete? It's pretty much stating that we're getting our asses kicked by white supremacy. Well, newsflash: all you Arabs, Chinese, Vietnamese, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, you're getting your asses handed to you through white supremacy too. Mexico's been turned into just a drug war zone. In certain parts of it, I've been over there. It's a beautiful country. It's being turned into a war zone. You should see Tijuana. Okay, they're getting their asses handed to them. Puerto Ricans don't own Puerto Rico. Okay, U.S. is over that. You might as well say the U.S. pretty much controls Mexico. They control who comes over and who doesn't. They got the NAFTA agreement with the American Free Trade. I mean, even with China, okay, China's coming up. The yen is going to be worth more than the dollar. But as far as military, who's more powerful? The U.S. has military bases in North Korea. Being in the military, I can pretty much get stationed wherever I want. That's how many U.S. military installations there are around the world. Japan, Korea. I mean, these places have nothing to do with white culture. It's a totally different place. You're on the other side of the world, but that's how powerful, pretty much the U.S. is and the white race is at this point in time. So all of these other races, they say they don't want to be associated with blacks. We all need to try to stick together on this thing because the Middle East right now, I think the military troops are back in Iraq. I don't think they ever really left. Afghanistan, the whole Arab world, India is under the thumb of the IMF World Bank, which is ruled by Europe and other whites and other white bankers. Show me a race that's not the same complexion as the lady holding the camera, and show me a race who's not suffering under white supremacy. Yeah, blacks are getting it the worst because according to the Darwin color scheme, we're supposed to get it the worst because we're on the bottom because white people or the white ruling oligarchy, they don't want to see Moors in power again. They're in power for 800 years. They don't want to see that happen ever again. So, of course, they came up with this thing called white supremacy. But every race is getting whipped, man. You see a lot of these people, they try to compare blacks to these other races. Oh, well, some of these Hindus come over here, these people from India and China come over here and set up businesses in the black community. why can't blacks do that? Well, we once did have businesses in our own communities. I mean, if you remember Tulsa, I mean, this is in the 20s and 30s, but if you remember Tulsa and Rosewood, and Durham and North Carolina, we had businesses. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Florida, we had businesses. But what the U.S. do, they drop bombs on those businesses. They set up race wars in society. The blacks in Oklahoma, they were pretty much during the recession. They were recession proof during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression in the 30s, whites were coming to Tulsa for bank loans. Did you know that? So we were economic proof. What did they do? They bomb those people with U.S. government planes, and people don't want to believe that, but it's true. They're bombed. So they won't allow us to have businesses. If we have businesses, but we don't have a police force to protect those businesses, and how are they going to let us have a police force? And we're under white supremacy. We're not going to have a police force. They're going to consider that a mutiny, and they're going to send the U.S. Army in there. So I mean, it's not just group economics. We have to have the whole enchilada. At least a militia to protect what we build. You're not going to get there alone by having a few businesses. And even these big businesses, I mean, the hair businesses that the blacks have, a few big hair businesses, they're being taken over. Because we don't have a government to protect those businesses. We don't have our own government. We don't have a nation. Africa is underneath the thumb of the IMF World Bank. The conspiracy dudes talking about those 11 countries paying tax to France, paying colonial tax to France still today. And the rest of Africa is underneath the IMF World Bank. When you gotta look at all the continents. Your darker continent. Africa's you got 7 continents. Africa's your darkest continent. And what do they have? They're the poorest continent in the world. 60% of Africa is below the poverty line. Okay, what's your widest continent, or your continent that has the least amount of blacks? That's Europe. Okay, and they're the richest continent, right? I mean, you got Europe, you got North America, you got South America, you got Antarctica, you got Africa, you got Australia. If I forget the other one, but the darkest of all those continents is Africa, and they're also the poorest. Every race, I mean, you have your darker Puerto Ricans and your whiter Puerto Ricans, or your Puerto Ricans who lack melon. But who gets all the publicity? Oscar de la Hoya, he's a real light-skinned Mexican or whatever, what have you. Jennifer Lopez, they're the lighter Puerto Rican, they're the lighter complected members of the race. But you have light-skinned Puerto Ricans, and you have Puerto Ricans who are about my complexion. You have Mexicans that are almost my complexion. You have Native Americans that are my complexion, but you don't see them on TV like that. Every race, even your lighter-skinned Muslims are brought to the forefront to talk on CNN, not your darker Muslims, your lighter Egyptians. So these groups are being bleached out. And if you're lighter, you're more likely to get the TV time. If they want to find out about something, they'll ask you to put you on CNN and have you talk about it. That's the whole thing with white supremacy. Make sure that everybody who's lighter in a certain group, your lighter Puerto Ricans, your lighter Mexicans, your lighter Native Americans, your lighter Egyptians, they're all going to be ahead of whatever race that they're a part of. And that's what white supremacy is about. It's very real. And it takes place. Look at CNN. And look at all these networks. The lighter ones in the group are the ones who being talked to. So every race needs to think about it. Man, everybody's getting their ass kicked by this white supremacy thing. You guys just think it's just blacks. All you gotta do is stay away from the blacks and you'll be okay. Think again. These guys are waging like 14, 15 wars at one time on all different groups, making it seem like it's just one group. That's the problem that they're at. So I'm gonna sign out. This is the author. I'll see you again. Peace.